to be able to work from home, but I would have to admit, it I would rather be with people to be able to bounce ideas off of.
It is time once again for the main story quest, where the Trinity Bros give you their MMO opinion.
Our main story quest. Game development from home. Square Enix made a posting recently that they're kind of making working from home a permanent feature. It's not universal. It's not absolute. We also know that people need to be working together at times in the office or collaboration. They're not saying no. They're not saying you have to be back in the office. So they're trying to make it more of a permanent feature. So I thought, I've been working from home since March. And I don't work in the game industry, but I do work with people, and collaboration is very important. Kind of do that when you're IMing someone. You might get into a voice chat with somebody. We don't do a lot of camera stuff. It feels weird. You lose the connection. And for me, I'm like, I think it's okay for a company to go and say, we have in our pocket the idea is that you can work from home, or at least work from away, like say, with the way it works for your family, with kids, especially with those with kids, or taking care of people, that you can flex your time. You can be in the office maybe 2 out of the 5 days, let's say, or 3 out of 5 days. To me, I think making it more permanent, where it's absolutely, we're not doing this, everything's collaborative, that could be a hurting problem. Now, if you can find a way around it, you can find a way around a collaboration where you actually can do the collaboration, then great. A friend of mine, he basically turned his office into his office space, and he had cameras and he had monitors up. And so while rest of his colleagues, were out somewhere else, okay, they were actually still in the office. In other words, the camera, the microphone, the speakers, the everything was on. And so while you don't necessarily weren't in the same room with somebody, you could see them. So you can easily go say, hey, Mike, and then Mike would say, hey, yeah, what's up, and ask the question right away. So that might be a way of doing it, but that costs a little more time and money. And I know broadband is going to be the biggest issue, how much your speed's up and down. I'm sure the companies won't mind that, to pay more. I know that my company isn't right now funding any money toward people having their own broadband. So that's going to be an issue down the road. But anyways, I just wanted to, for me, thought it was not a great idea. I think that you need to have collaboration in the office. I don't mind making it a part of the feature of people saying, yes, you can have work from home as part of your feature, but to make it more permanent, so that's my thought. So I wanted to get your take, Sojazio. What do you thought about this?
Well, my mind instantly goes to the psychological aspect of it, the social as well. That man, I know that most of us, my dog might start barking in a little bit. I know that most of us that have either done work or are working in that industry tend to be homebodies, and we tend to be introverts. Not always, but that tends to be the case. And going to a physical location and working with your coworkers, it's just kind of a way to get out of that space, to get out of our own head, and to be able to connect with other people, have those water cooler moments. Those of you who've ever worked in the office will understand that saying. That to talk about the latest episode of The Mandalorian or whatever. And, it gives us homebodies and us introverts kind of a forced situation where we are put in a group of people where we can communicate and understand that we are not all that's in the universe. There are other people, and so in that way, it's a benefit psychologically and socially for us to gather together. Again, and also bringing in our faith, and that we weren't meant to be alone. That's the whole reason that God created Eve, and why He wanted Adam and Eve to create others. I won't go on to a whole spiel. I'm not going to Preach it, all of you, but we were created to have that need to be together and to gather together. So I think in those aspects, it is better for us to be together. And boy, howdy, this year with all these lockdowns and the pandemic and all this stuff going on globally has really shown that there's a lot of people that are suffering psychologically because of not being able to go into work. Now, as far as the work goes, the productivity, I think it can be done. It is being done. However, I don't believe it's as efficient as it is when you're there. Uh, you just kind of mentioned something that happens a lot in those offices that is kind of tricky to navigate when you're doing it online. Those instances where your supervisor or other coworkers who you're working with for level design, for character design, for missions or quests or what have you, or even building a zone, like we were just talking about in Ashes, or yeah, it's Ashes of Creation. Sorry, I went back to Glory Invictus for a little bit. Those moments where they're getting up to get another cup of coffee or get some water or just get up and stretch their legs, and they walk by your booth and they look down and go, "Oh, that's really neat what you're doing there. Do you think what about doing this?" And just being able to, as iron sharpens iron, again, not to preach at all of you, another biblical thing.
It's not biblical. I mean, it's biblical, but
I,
it's not just really referring
yeah,
to Christian.
it
It's like I said,
I
engineers
loved
sharpen engineers by looking
right,
over
and
someone's shoulder.
I always do my best work when I share it with other people before it's released. I always just cherish those moments where there's a coworker walking by and saying, "Hey, have you thought about changing this color or have you thought about adding this in there?" And you go, "No, I didn't, but that's really cool." And then you go in and you end up working together. And I think it's possible to do those, like you were saying, Kenneth, and that you could put cameras up where your other coworkers could look through, or you could do share your screen with them and things like that. But you're not going to have those sporadic kind of moments that you would in the natural environment where people are just getting up and, like I said, going to get a cup of coffee or whatever and walking by and going, "Hey, that looks cool, but what about this?" Or
Right.
and vice versa, them coming over to yours. Um, I just I think they can do it, and there are companies that are doing it. We're big New World fans. Looking forward to Amazon Game Studios putting that out for us sometime in the next 10 years. Uh, but they're doing that for the most part, and they're being successful at it. There's lots of companies. Shadowlands was pretty much put together like that for the most part, and it's been really fun so far. Um, so I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying
Right.
I don't believe, it's my opinion. It's my opinion that it's just not as efficient.
Yeah.
And I would I would cherish the ability to have a job where I could work from home, especially as a disabled guy. And a guy that doesn't live, especially if I was working for one of those big companies, I don't really want to move into the city in Los Angeles or wherever because, for one, it's way too expensive. So I would cherish that opportunity to be able to work from home, but I would have to admit, it I would rather be with people to be able to bounce ideas off of.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing I think for all of this, I mean, I look into different headlines, right? They use the word permanently, okay? To
Yeah,
allow to work from home permanently. And yet,
right.
when you read it, you read articles, right? And this will back into what I was saying. It's not talking about, I mean, 80%, one article said 80%. Yes, you allow for more flexibility. Yeah, you allow for bringing in more talent and different variety of talent because now you're not restricted to being like, well, you have to live in Japan, okay? Because Square Enix is based in Japan or wherever they're doing the work from. You know, you
Right.
can work from anywhere in the world, so you're flexible in that regard. You don't have to come here. Okay, you can
Mm.
stay where you're at and still be employed by us, which has always been a way for freelancing anyway. So it's not like that's new. You know, and again, like, you know, most companies I think are realizing, especially when it comes to COVID, because they have been working from home, unless you're doing manufacturing where you actually got to be in the plant. You know, you can do the work at home, but you lose, like you said, you lose that iron sharpens iron. I mean, you're seeing it. I mean, I'm seeing it in my company at times, right? It's the fact that, you know, you're missing being able to have the older engineer teach the young engineer by literally. I mean, I always tell the story. When I was young engineer, you know, I had this older guy sit next to me, looked at my drawing, you know, of my part. He goes, "Oh, that looks like a piece of beep." You know, I'm like, and I was like really hurt. You
Right.
know,
Right.
and my lead came by and said, "I will show you. We'll work on this, okay?" And so what I realized, found out was that while my part would, because I did the free body diagram, structurally would work, it didn't look like it could work, and it didn't understand the manufacturing processes. I didn't understand. I didn't know about machining. I didn't know about forging. I was a brand new guy. Okay, so having that collaboration, having that person looking over my shoulder and helping me out with that was all the better. I mean, I'm working with young engineers who are pretty good independently, but they need to have someone looking over their shoulder. It's like, how do you do that? You know, if
Right.
you're not in the office. So, and yeah, I don't think that we should be restricted back to the way it used to be, where you had to be in the office 5 days a week. I think you need to allow flexibility. So that means that if you're going to do it, you got to find a way to say, like, say say 3 of the 5 days out of a week have to be the days you know you'll be all in the office. And if you ever want to have physical in the office meetings, you have to have it on those days. The other 2 days can be flexible. Now, I understand that there might be some people who might take Friday as being that day off, or that flexible day. I would take Monday. So that will be an issue too. But yeah, I think that you're right. And humans need to have the contact, need to have the social interaction, and just you learn so much from it. Doesn't mean it has to be all the time. And that's what I think key point. That's why I didn't like about the articles, because they talked about being like more like Corey even saying, like, this is permanent or permanent from home. Like, no, okay. Maybe there's some more referring that they're talking about this being a new policy of theirs to be more a permanent policy. A temporary COVID policy is more of a permanent policy.
Right.
All right, that was our main story quest.
Check out the further adventures of Kennethan by liking and subscribing and watching me live on twitch.tv/Kennethan.